One person, I whispered to myself. I just need to reach one person. But the silence that followed was deafening. I didn't know then that this silence would last for a very, very long time. Consistency is a word people love to throw around, but no one tells you how much it hurts when you're consistent and nothing happens. Month 3, video number 45. Total subscribers, 12. Most of them were accounts I had created myself just to see the number move. Every day was the same. I would wake up at 5 a.m., work a grueling shift at the local market hauling crates of produce, and come home with aching muscles. While others went out or slept, I sat in my corner. I filmed, I edited, I researched. I watched the big creators. They had 4K cameras, softboxes, and teams of editors. I watched them complaining about burnout in their mansions while I sat in a room that smelled like damp wood, trying to figure out how to make my grainy footage look halfway decent. I felt a surge of envy that I'm not proud of. Why them? Why not me? Is it just because they have money? "You're still doing this?" my sister asked one evening, leaning against the doorframe. She wasn't mean like my father, but her pity was worse. "Elias, you've put out 40 videos and you have no views. Maybe it's time to listen to Dad. You're exhausting yourself for a ghost." I looked at my analytics. The graph was a flat line, a dead pulse. I started to doubt everything. Was my voice too annoying? Was my story boring? Was I just another delusional kid chasing a fantasy? I would spend hours crafting a title, designing a thumbnail on a tiny screen that made my eyes ache, only for the video to get 3 views in 24 hours. 2 of those views were me checking if the audio worked. But then, I remembered why I started. I didn't start for the views. I started because I had a fire in my chest that wouldn't go out. I started because I refused to accept that my life was meant to be lived in the shadows of a warehouse. I decided to stop looking at the numbers and start looking at the craft. I began to study storytelling. I practiced my delivery in the mirror until my throat was sore. I learned how to manipulate the light from my single window to create shadows that hid the cracks in my walls. I was becoming a filmmaker without a camera. I was becoming a storyteller without an audience. But the world has a way of kicking you when you're finally finding your footing. Just as I felt I was getting better, the one thing I relied on most was taken away from me. It happened on a Tuesday. The humidity was high, and my old phone was struggling. I was in the middle of a deep dive edit, a video I had worked on for 2 weeks. It was my best work yet, an honest talk about the mental toll of poverty. Suddenly, the screen flickered. A green line slashed through the middle of the display. Then, blackness. I tried to turn it on. Nothing. I plugged it in. The charging port hissed. The smell of burnt electronics filled the small room. I sat there in the dark, the dead phone in my lap. I felt like I had lost a limb. That phone was my only tool, my only hope. And I had no money to fix it. None. Every penny I earned went to rent and flour. I broke down. I didn't just cry, I sobbed. I sobbed for the 12 subscribers I'd never see again. I sobbed for the hours of work locked inside a dead motherboard. I sobbed because my father was right. I was a failure. I didn't touch a camera for 2 weeks. I went to the warehouse, worked my shifts, and came home. I sat in silence. The silence was heavy. It felt like defeat. One night, I saw my father looking at me. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just looked at my empty hands and sighed. That was worse. I went to a local repair shop, hoping for a miracle. The man behind the counter shook his head. "The board is fried, kid. It'll cost more to fix than it's worth. Just buy a new one." "I can't," I whispered. I walked home, ready to delete my account from a public library computer and end the dream. But as I passed a trash heap near the market, I saw something. An old, discarded tripod, broken, missing a leg. I picked it up. No, I wasn't going out like this. I took an extra night shift as a security guard at a construction site. For 3 weeks,
I didn't sleep more than 3 hours a day. My eyes were bloodshot, my bones ached, but I saved every cent. I didn't buy a new phone. I bought a used, beat-up model from a pawn shop. It was slightly better, but it was enough. I sat back down on my mattress. I propped the new phone up. I didn't script anything. I just looked into the lens. I almost quit, I said. My phone broke. I have no money. My family thinks I'm crazy, but I'm still here. If you're watching this and you feel like giving up on your dream, don't. Because if I can find a way to record this, you can find a way to keep going. I titled the video, "The Truth About Being a Failure." I hit upload, thinking it would be my final goodbye to the platform. I had no idea it was actually the beginning.
I woke up the next morning and didn't even check my phone. I was too tired, too drained. I went to work, hauled my crates, and came home. When I finally picked up the phone, I noticed something strange. The battery was draining faster than usual. Notifications were stacking up. New comment, new subscriber, new comment. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the YouTube Studio app. Views, 14,000. I rubbed my eyes. I thought it was a glitch. I refreshed. Views, 18,500. I scrolled through the comments. I needed to hear this today. Finally, someone being real on this app. Subscribed. Keep going, brother. I started laughing. Then I started crying. For the first time in my life, I wasn't shouting into a void. Someone was listening. That one video triggered the algorithm. My older videos, the ones I thought were dead, started getting views. 100 subscribers turned into 1,000 in 3 days. I remember the moment I hit 1,000. I took a screenshot and stared at it for an hour. I was eligible for monetization. A month later, I got my first Google envelope in the mail. My father watched as I opened it. Inside was a check for $120. It wasn't $1 million. It wasn't even enough to pay the full rent. But to me, it was proof. "They paid you?" my father asked, his voice soft, touching the paper. "For the videos?" "Yes, Dad, for the videos." Something changed in me. The fear was gone. I knew what people wanted now. They didn't want the 4K quality or the fancy transitions. They wanted the truth. They wanted a friend who understood their struggle. I became a machine. I used that $120 to buy a basic microphone and a cheap LED light. My content improved. My storytelling became sharper. I wasn't just a poor guy anymore. I was a creator. 10,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. The silver play button arrived in a cardboard box. I held it in my hands, the cold metal reflecting the same room where I had once sobbed in the dark. But the room didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like a launch pad. The numbers were growing faster than I could track, but the biggest challenge was yet to come. Staying true to myself when the whole world was finally watching. I stand here today in a room that looks very different from the one I started in. There's a professional camera in front of me now. There are soft lights that make everything look perfect. But if you look closely at the shelf behind me, you'll see that old, cracked phone. I kept it. I keep it to remind myself of the cold floor and the 0 views. Yesterday, the notification popped up. A number I never thought I'd see outside of a dream. 1 million subscribers. My life has completely transformed. I bought my parents a house where the roof doesn't leak and the heater actually works. My father doesn't ask me about warehouse jobs anymore. He spends his mornings reading the comments on my videos, beaming with pride. I can eat whatever I want. I can travel wherever I want. But you know what the most beautiful part is? It's not the money, it's the messages. I get emails from kids in small villages, from people working jobs they hate, from dreamers who feel invisible. They tell me that because I didn't quit when my phone broke, they aren't quitting either. To anyone watching this, you don't need the best gear. You don't need a lot of money. You don't even need people to believe in you. You need discipline. You need to be okay with being ignored for months, maybe years. You need to trust your voice when the world is silent. You need to realize that the 0 views phase isn't a failure. It's the training ground. It's where you find out who you really are. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is right now, with whatever broken tool you have in your hand.
I started with a cracked screen and a dream that everyone laughed at. Today, I'm talking to a million of you. The only difference between me and the version of me that failed? I just didn't stop. Your turn. The algorithm doesn't care about your excuses, but the world needs your story. Start today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for a better camera. Record your first video today, upload it, and never, ever quit.